Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back, everybody. Fired up for another week of the Pick and Go podcast, and got a huge week of rugby coming up. So got the big guns back in town to break it all down. Very pleased to be once again joined by Matty Fisk from across the Tasman. Fisky, you were on fire last week in the NPC. Was it good to be back watching some provincial footy?
Oh, I love it. Had a bit of a win on the punt just quietly. So it was a great weekend, topped off by, and credit's got to go to the 46 players involved and the referee, to that wonderful Ranfurly Shield match on Sunday afternoon. That was a brilliant way to finish off the return of the NPC. So happy to be here and pumped for a big week.
Yeah, no, it was a classic Ranfurly Shield match. Shame about the final result, but I thoroughly enjoyed the first 78 minutes. I'm sure a man who enjoyed the last 5 or 6 more than that was Paul Moati. Paul, how are you?
Yeah, never in doubt. The Bay had it under control the whole way, as you know, Patrick.
Yeah, no. Well, I did want to just check in. Last week, you were very insistent the Shield's not going anywhere outside of Napier for the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. Do you still feel that way now that the next challenge has been confirmed to be against Tasman?
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll check back in a couple.
Don't worry about it. Nothing has changed my mind.
Good to know. Good to know. But before we get into all the action from the Bunnings NPC, there's plenty going on across the Tasman at Suncorp Stadium on Saturday afternoon. We'll start with the late game. The All Blacks obviously pretty comfortable victors over Argentina once again, with far from a first choice side on the park. Few squad players getting a chance to have a run out and push their claims for the Saturday. What do you think we learned from that performance as a whole, Fisky?
It's hard to draw any conclusions. They covered the plus. Argentina looked highly unlikely at halftime, down 24-3, and I just think the All Blacks were solid without being spectacular. Once again, I don't think the Pumas offered much in attack. One try coming from a cross kick. No, I don't think my views change on either side too much. I think, New Zealand were clinical. Argentina just haven't fired a shot, and we'll talk about it a bit later, but I don't expect them to start this week either. So I didn't learn a lot. What about you, Pat and Paul?
I was actually, that was pretty much the script, right? I think we sort of thought maybe it would take a bit longer for the All Blacks to get into the game. Though we said that maybe once the new combinations got used to one another, they'd run up the score later on. But I was really impressed with the control the All Blacks showed once again. Like from pretty much the word go, they were on top of Argentina, keeping the ball down their end of the park and playing some pretty composed, clinical phase footy, which is certainly a good thing when it goes to show the whole. It's that sort of thing where the whole squad's on the same page. They've got the systems in place. Who you slot in and slot out, they can get the job done. Did you have any epiphanies watching that game, Paul?
Rieko Ioane is a world-class winger.
I thought you already knew that.
I think that just we got to see last weekend that he really is when he's on the back at the end of the back line. And he can do things. It's absolutely fantastic. I thought once again the forward pack stood up, especially in that first sort of 20 minutes. I thought they were superb. And TJ Perenara is getting back to his best. I thought he had a super game. So, it almost went to script. I guess the comeback towards the end of the game by the Argentinians when it was all over and done, sort of made the scoreline, sort of flattered them slightly. I thought the All Blacks were far superior.
They weren't even in the contest that first half. The All Blacks had multiple tries disallowed, just in total control. I think you're right, Paul. It flattered them.
Certainly, you felt like the All Blacks never really got out of maybe third or fourth gear. They had Argentina at arm's length all game, and if they'd needed to kick it up a notch late on, they could have, right?
Yeah. It was great to see Tui Poluto out there. He's always been. I think he improves every year, and it's good to have him back in the side and good to see him get over. So I enjoyed watching him. And as always, Geordie's just that rock at the back. And I just think the days of them messing around with fullback are over. I think Geordie's just, that spot's his as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because obviously with all eyes now looking towards the Springboks in Townsville on Saturday night, I don't think we'll see a lot of guys from that starting 15 carry over this week, but I take it Geordie's one you hope and expect to see wearing the 15 jersey again when they take on the Boks, Fisky? Yeah,
I think the side that came out against, and the side will be selected by the time the podcast is published. I think it'll be very similar to the side that played Argentinians in the first match. Bodie at 10, Geordie at 15, and then Scott and Brody Retallick at the locks. So, I think it'll be very, very similar side to the one that played Argentina a fortnight ago.
I imagine in the forward pack as well, they've been pretty happy to see Joe Moody get through 48 minutes of rugby unscathed, get a bit of match fitness under his belt, because against that sort of more confrontational Springbok pack, he's probably a man you're going to want in there with a bit of experience compared to the other loose-head props they've got available. Paul, you touched on your Wellington Lions boy, TJ Perenara, and his performance on Saturday night. Is he another guy you think maybe pushed his case for a run against the Boks?
Most definitely. I think his style, where he's slightly more confrontational, will suit the matchup against the Springboks this weekend. So I would expect to see him starting again. I think before the Rugby Championship started, they maybe weren't looking towards him starting against the Springboks, but I would expect it now. I agree with Fisky. I think Geordie at the back, after his last few games, has sort of said the 15 belongs to me, and if someone else wants it, they're going to have to outplay me. So there'll be a few other areas where maybe they play around slightly. In fact, we might see a few Barretts on the field this weekend.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like Fisky said, the team should be announced soon, so probably no point get playing too much musical chairs there. I expect it'll be, well, obviously it's going to be the first choice side, right? We'll know who Ian Foster thinks is his best team in an hour or so, because this is the game it's all about. But might as well touch on the Springboks, because they haven't really played their part in hyping up this game, right? What you were very bullish on their chances to bounce back on Saturday, Fisky. What went wrong?
I just got that totally wrong. I'll put my hand up. They're off the pace. I don't think it's something they can fix in a week. They haven't forgotten how to play rugby. I just think fitness-wise and common sense suggests that if you haven't played a lot of rugby in the past 18 months and you're playing a side, whether it's the Wallabies or the All Blacks, that have played 2 full seasons at high level, so domestic comps, rugby championships, in the case of New Zealand, NPC as well. These guys are match fit, they're match hard, and they're just at the top of their game. And South Africa's sluggish. Their fitness, the last 30, they're almost stalling play when they're behind with 10 to go. They were the ones slowing down to try and get together for a scrum on the line. Their line out was ineffective. There was no energy. I bring it down to fitness. Obviously, they're trying to win. I think the want was there, but the bodies just couldn't take them. You're not going to turn that around in a week. As much as they'll lift for the game, they're just fitness-wise way off the pace.
And I think you got to give a bit of credit to the Wallabies coaching staff there as well, because it was clearly a game plan from the word go on Saturday night. The team had the green light to throw every offload imaginable. They were chucking the ball around. Once they got in behind the Springbok defensive line, they weren't sort of letting play regroup. They were going and really putting the foot on the throat. So, for me, it was a great sort of targeted game plan. Was that something that stood out to you as well, Paul?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things written down here. I was here. Rennie can coach. So, yes, I totally agree with you on that facet. Once again, the Springboks only scored 1 try. When they've got the ball in hand, they actually have no idea of what to do. They're sticking to their old sort of game plan, and it's very, very easy to defend against if your team is making tackles. And that's what the Australians did. They made a whole heap of tackles against the Springboks, scored 4 tries themselves. It's a wee bit to do with the Australians, who have improved as this tournament has progressed, but also the fact that the Springboks they seem to be standing still, if not going backwards, and they don't seem to have an idea when
Well,
it comes
Paul,
to. Yep.
you used one word there, and it was old. And that's the word I want to pick up on. So Willie LaRue, Damien Dialando, even Dwayne Vermeulen, they're looking old and they're looking slow. And I think the time's up. Now, if they're going to play a game like the Lions allowed them to play in that series where it was just kick and chase and catch, yeah, they can compete with the best of them. But the fast-paced pitches in Australia, whether they're playing the All Blacks or Wallabies, that's not going to work. These guys are just. I thought their defence, around the 12 mark was horrendous. When Willie LaRue was chiming in from the back, his pace is just. He just doesn't have any anymore. And whilst he's still a classical fullback, you need more than that. You need that punch. And yeah, I'm sorry to say, I don't think they'll put up much of a fight on Saturday night.
Yeah, very interesting. I guess it's going to come down to that styles make fight sort of thing, but that's certainly where the Wallabies excelled, right? It was throwing the ball around. Another area, you sort of touched on defensively there, the Springboks were doing a bit of that silly buggers that I don't like with their first five. They were moving Andre Pollard out to the wing or at fullback on defence, and that was another area. The Wallabies, the first two tries, they were both clear set moves where you had the inside ball to take advantage of, was it Kurabiti running straight at Andre Pollard, and they did an excellent job of exploiting defensively. But still think Peter stepped into it. It's just, you can't understate how much a massive out he is for them. He does essentially Vermeulen's work for him that allows Vermeulen to just be a ball carrier and a hawk around the ruck. So I think that's a big reason why he's in particular looks off the pace compared to that monster we saw against South Africa, against England, in the World Cup final. So yeah, it's been a long 18 months for a few of them for sure. Who do you think, Paul, needs to step up for the Box on Saturday night if they are to turn the tables or at least be competitive?
The whole team.
Thank you.
Honestly, but I do think they will step up. If there's one game that they're going to step up in, it's the 100th test between the Springboks and the All Blacks. So, although I agree with Fisky, there's not a lot in the tank for them to actually draw on. The one thing they can draw on is the fact that this is a historically significant test match. And I think that'll raise them up a certain amount. I still can't see them beating the All Blacks, but this is their last chance for me. I've thrown a wee bit of cash away on these boys during this tournament. So this is the last time where I try and get it back. But I do think the fact that it is the 100th test between the two teams will bring a wee bit more out of the Springboks this weekend.
So, Paddy and Paul, you are both students of the game. And talking over the 100 years of matches between the 100 matches, between the sides, what's the match that stands out that you remember between the All Blacks and Springboks over the years?
The one where they first won a test match series in South Africa, where I think Fitzpatrick and the whole team just collapsed after the final whistle because they had finally picked up a series win in South Africa. It was very, very hard in the years before that because you were always playing against, if not 16 men, 18 men. And
maybe a tea lady as well.
Don't bring Susie into this.
I was a bit young. I can't quite remember that second 96 test. I have watched the replay many times since, and I think that's certainly right up there along with the 56, the win at Eden Park to get the first win over the series win over the Springboks anywhere. But in terms of ones I can remember actually just a year later, I do remember the 97 test in Pretoria where Springboks went out to a massive lead. Yanni de Beer was kicking drop goals from all over the place in the first half, and then Carlos Spencer and Jeff Wilson led a massive fight back in the second half. Frank Bunce, an absolute stormer, one of the more rabid crowds I've ever seen in World Rugby as well at Loftus that night. So that's probably a personal highlight of mine.
Yeah, I also remember the flower bomb test at Eden Park, where I think it was Gary Knight actually got hit by a flower bomb dropped from a low-flying plane over Eden Park. And he played on anyway. Just put a bit of magic water on the face, wiped the flour off and kept going. And I think that was the one where Alan Hewson kicked a penalty right on full time to win the Test match and seal the series win.
I can't recall the match or what year it was. I want to think 2008 or 2010. It was when Ma Nonu scored on the hooter.
2010, yeah.
2010, and it was one of the most brilliant comebacks. The game was ebbing and flowing, and then it was brilliant. And those day games in South Africa, especially at altitude, the high scoring but just good footy. And that was when the All Blacks had a brilliant side, and South Africa at their peak too. I thought that was a brilliant test. I'll never forget that one.
Yeah, no, that was I was watching that in a pub in the northwest of England, and it was while all the Premier League football was on every other screen in the pub, apart from this one little one in the corner, and everyone was engulfed. I think it was Manchester United versus Aston Villa or something, and then me and my one Kiwi mate just popped up out of nowhere, so started screaming our heads off when there was just like a corner or something. No one had any idea what we were going on about, but yeah, that was another brilliant one. They've certainly played their fair share of pretty amazing tests. Even the Springboks, when they had it at the Cape Town a couple of years ago, it was, I think, massive 17-point underdogs or something, where Damien McKenzie couldn't quite get the pass out in the last second. That was a pretty great test as well. So, yeah, hopefully they can bounce back and serve up another classic on Saturday evening for sure. Any more memories you want to touch on, Paul? I won't ask what you were up to on the day of the third test in 1981, but...
I certainly wasn't in Hamilton on the day of the Springbok Waikato game that never got played in the end. But yeah, those were interesting times. You had family split down the middle.
Yeah, for sure. Probably best if we don't go too much into the politics of the 81 Springbok tour.
No, I don't think Paul's absence from the game was a political stance. 1981, I think it was his 21st birthday he was celebrating. So, yeah, he had other things on his mind that night.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just obviously touching on it being the 100th test between these two teams and all the history, it's pretty much, I don't think many people would argue it's the greatest rivalry in world rugby, and we've seen South Africa obviously been poor the last couple of weeks. Do you think there's any chance they've just been looking ahead to this test and maybe they sort of let the Wallabies? You're shaking your head. Not on the right path there, Fisky.
Oh, you might be. Look, I got them wrong last game, and I've said that New Zealand probably been flattered in those first few matches against the Wallabies. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident. Just the slickness, the fitness, the match hardness of the All Blacks. I don't know if South Africa can get to that level as quickly enough. And I know they do lift. It's almost funny that they'll lift against different sides, South Africa, and the All Blacks is always one of those ones that New Zealand do have trouble with the Springboks from time to time when they probably shouldn't. So maybe I'm wrong, but no, I'm pretty confident the All Blacks will dominate the match, and I don't know if they've got a plan B, Springboks. New Zealand would know what to expect, and I think they'll be way better at it.
Sure, yeah. Only the two changes to the starting 15 from what they trotted out against the Wallabies. You got Lou Diaga coming back from the concussion into the second row alongside even Etzebeth, and then Cogger Smith takes Franco Mostert's place on the blind side. Were you surprised they didn't make maybe a few more changes, Paul, after the disappointment of those two tests against the Wallabies?
No, I think this has been their sort of plan all along, to pretty much stick with what they've got and just try and grind out a victory here or there. It hasn't worked so far, but even with the results, they've decided to stick pretty much with their game plan. So I don't know if they're looking forward to the next World Cup in mind, and they're just playing around with a few things at the moment, just really sort of banging their heads against the wall in terms of, we reckon this is the best way for our team, and we're going to keep going until we get better and better and better at it, until it becomes a winning formula again. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that they didn't make too many changes, no.
Yeah, fair enough. Big line, though, like obviously with the two form lines of the teams, no surprise to see the All Blacks are pretty reasonable favourites, but I think the line opened up at 11.5. It's now gone out to 12.5, and you're getting $1.95 for the box plus that 12. New Zealand just $1.22 head-to-head. South Africa now 4-1. I take it you're not surprised to see such a big number there by the South Africans, Matt?
No, I priced it up at the start of the week at 13.5, and I didn't know if I was being bullish or not, but it looks like that's where it'll settle. So I kind of agree with the bookies on this one. In saying that, I think my bet will come in the other game, but I think 13.5 for me is around the line. If anything, given the conditions, it's going to be a bit humid, but still relatively nice weather. I think it could be slightly bigger. I think the All Blacks are going to put some points on.
You're not expecting 57-0 again, are you?
No, I'm not. But I'm expecting a pretty big score.
I'd just like to mention that 57-0 test whenever possible. I don't know. For anyone who's not aware, the All Blacks beat the Springboks 57-0 4 years ago. So just shout that out. They might have won a World Cup in between then and now, but it's always good to give it a shout out. Any other areas you've got sort of circled, things to watch on Saturday night, Paul?
Just back to the Australians, I was really impressed with the midfield combination of Korobedi and Ikito. I thought that was just absolutely sensational. I know they didn't have too much up against them last weekend, but they really, really stood out. I was very, very impressed with the midfield there.
Yeah, no, I think Lena Kitau is one who's really come on leaps and bounds even since that French series. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to Samu Kerevi as well, the man he had inside it. Just going from Hunter Paisami to Kerevi and Korobedi and the likes around you shows such a huge difference those systems have made. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Hopefully, Anton Leonard-Brown's hammy's recovered fully so we can see him and the 13 jersey Enrico pushed out to the left wing and hopefully get some a bit of a recreation of what Korobedi did to the Springboks. So, yeah, that'll be something to keep an eye on. Any other notes you had, or is there anything you're looking for maybe from the All Black side of things, Fisky, about how they're going to approach this?
Yeah, I'm intrigued. Like, I'm really looking forward to the match. I want the All Blacks, and sometimes they worry me, their coaching staff. I do want them to take a leaf out of Rennie's book, play to their strengths. The standard of New Zealand rugby this year, whether it's Super Rugby, Aotearoa, NPC, or whatnot, it's classy. The ball's been kept in hand. They're getting the ball in transition really quickly, putting pressure on the defence. I want them to do that. I don't want them to get it stuck into a 2 or 3 phases and kick game because that's playing into South Africa's hands. They really have to stick to their strengths. I hope we do that. I think we will with the side we got. I think we've got to hold the ball, wear them down, and punch them where they're weak. Yeah, use the midfield, punch in the midfield, use our big locks, get Artie involved, and just clean out, keep the ball, and build the pressure. And if you do that for 50 minutes, they'll have nothing left in the tank for the last 30, and we can run amok. So, yeah, ball in hand for me, and I hope we see that.
Yeah, especially with the performances we've seen with some of those sort of big ball-playing locks and loose forwards. Retallick's been back to almost his best in the Bledisloe Cup tests. Akira Ioane, obviously, we've touched on his performances a lot on the pod in recent weeks. If they can get those guys out in the wider channels, Cody Taylor or Samasoni Takao, whoever the hooker is, and get them matched on with some of those smaller Springbok backs, I think, yeah, that'd be a recipe for success. But are you at all concerned that the coaching staff might go the other way and try and sort of square up to the Springboks and fight them in a phone booth, Paul?
It's possible. I don't think they will, though. The style of rugby that they've been playing so far has been very, very successful, and there really is no reason to change a winning plan. They don't have to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. They've got a wet sail there in the home straight. They have been very, very impressive the last month or so.
Yeah. One thing I will say, if I was a Springbok fan, to give me a little bit of hope, I'd be happy to see they've ditched the Mostert at blindside experiment. I think that might work when you're playing the Lions and you don't have to worry about covering in space too much. But the guy's clearly, doesn't have the pace to defend an All Black style attack. So Quagga Smith, obviously former Sevens player, he's a great athlete. I think he'll give them a lot more dynamism from that position, and then having Mostert on the bench to bring on as that impact player in the second row will help to what went so well for them at the World Cup with that sort of second tight five to what do they call them, the bomb squad, to come off the bench. So that would be a couple of areas, I think, just marginal games for the Springboks, but they're coming from so far off the pace compared to where the All Blacks have been the last couple of weeks. It'll be pretty tough to catch, you'd have to say. We'll get to betting in a second, though, but take a quick look at, I guess the main event in Townsville, technically. The All Blacks Springboks is the curtain raiser for Wallabies Pumas. I'm not quite sure how many people will be hanging around to watch both tests in the crowd on Saturday night, but I think you've touched on it. Fisky, you said this is going to be a pretty comfortable Wallabies victory.
Yeah, Reece Hodges won the battle for the fullback spot, replacing Tom Banks. So there was a talk James O'Connor might be slotted in. They haven't named the squad yet, but perhaps they'll put him on the bench. Apart from that, you'd think they'd be unchanged. They seem to have got their mix right with their rotation in the front row. That's working. Hooper's at the top.
Tupou, right? Oh.
Yeah. Like I like him starting personally, and I'm a big believer in that. But kind of seemed to work last week, starting with Nick White and then Tate on the bench. Either way, the Wallabies are lucky there to have class number 9s, both on the bench and starting. So Reece Hodge, I like him at fullback. We've talked about their midfield and Corabetti. So I think they're at the top of their game. They can improve a little bit. Whereas Argentina, I don't know where they go. They'll make a few changes, no doubt, like they want to do. And this is their third high-intensity game in a row where they've done a lot of tackling in the first two. A lot of tackling. They'll try and rest up a few, but I don't know where they go. And I'm not really talking about the Wallabies being too classy. I just think Argentina are off the pace. No real points in them. Wallabies will control the ball. I think the dam will break even further, and I wouldn't be surprised with the 25 to 30 point win.
Yeah, so that's got them pretty comfortably covering. Just for the punters, it's a 8.5 point line currently, and the money's coming for Australia there because they're into $1.80, so I wouldn't be surprised to see they get to double digits before kickoff.
Am I getting too carried away, Pat and Paul?
No, I don't think so. I think the Argentinians are already thinking about that flight back to Buenos Aires in a few weeks' time. They've been away for quite a while. Remember, they've been to South Africa as well. I think
Europe.
Those boys,
Europe.
Yeah. So I think those boys will be getting homesick, and they're already thinking about getting back to Argentina. So with the role that the Australians are on at the moment, and the fact that the Argentinians had the stuffing knocked out of them in those two tests against the All Blacks, I don't think they've got anything left. And the Australians will just be picking off the carcass that the All Blacks left for them. So I think it will be a big victory as well.
The way, the combinations in that Wallabies backline seem to be coming together. We've touched on, the 12-13 combo, the 13-11 combo with Corabetti and Ikitau in particular looked sparkling against the Springboks. You could see them, things do click again, which if they can click against the Springboks, there's no reason they can't against the Pumas. I can certainly see it being but there's, you might want to get on maybe a few of those alternate point starts, go Wallabies minus 19.5, 24.5 or something, because if it does click. But there's also the potential for that natural letdown, right? Like the Wallabies would have been pretty fired up for those two games against the Springboks.
Potentially. Potentially. And look, let's face it, Argentina's strength is a scrum base, the back row and their locks. They've got some class there. And I was really impressed with the Wallabies last week, how they held out against, the Springboks locks and back row, especially in the rolling lineouts. Didn't concede a try there, particularly when they're under pressure the last 15 minutes. Their scrum held up really well. So kind of the areas that Argentina might think they've got an edge and would have had in the past, I don't think the edge is there anymore. And we know where the class gap sits out wide. So, there might be a letdown. I actually think it'll be the opposite. I think they're a confidence team, and the last few games we've given multitude of confidence, and they'll come out and they'll want to make a stamp on the last two games. So they sort of head over to Europe in a real good frame of mind.
I think it wouldn't shock anyone to see the Wallabies really put up a score there. Anything else to add on that game, Paul, before we move on?
No, just get on. Australia 13 and over.
Rennie can coach.
He can coach.
Oh.
I think we knew that
Is he a hut
before
boy?
the Australian stabbed him. Is he what?
Is he a hut boy?
He played
Lower
for
Hutt?
Upper Hutt. He played for Upper Hutt.
Upper Hutt.
Yep. So he's through and through the Hutt, all right.
I don't think Australian rugby's going to let him go, fellas. If
I don't think they should.
Yeah.
If you had dreams of being an All Blacks coach, I think the Wallabies might put pay to that. I think he might be a coach for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, the way things are going, I saw on Twitter on Saturday about the 60-minute mark. People were tossing out Wallabies to win the World Cup markets and things like that. So it seems like the gates are trains well and truly left the station. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, anyway, after the track,
have a little stab. Take the cash. Have a little stab now.
Yeah. Oh, it's shaping up to be a great World Cup. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, obviously, but the way France are going, the way the Wallabies are shaping up, could be a really good World Cup in a couple of years. But we've got
England signed Anthony Seabolt, so we can write them off.
yeah, that would be pretty on brand for them. But obviously, we've got to touch on. I think that does us for the Rugby Championship for now. We'll circle back to best bets in a second, but Bunnings NPC, plenty of action to break down there. It was a pretty interesting opening round or return to action there. The Canterbury just getting the job done against Waikato on Friday night. Fisky, I know you were back in the red and blacks to return to form there. Wasn't the most sparkling display, but typical Canterbury fashion, managed to find a way to get the result.
I'll tell you what, though, I gave Cam Bailey a big rap on the wing. He had an absolute blinder.
Yeah.
He was involved in the first try, had 2 touches, brilliant touches as well. Tackled anything that moved. I thought his defence was really impressive. Did a faultless display. So I was really happy for Cam. He had a blinder. The game full of excitement, like these games generally are. But the referee was scolded during the week for not allowing a second conversion after that last try. Personally, I think he got it right. There's talk that the movement for the kick was a sideways movement or backwards movement. I'm sorry, but once you pause for more than 2 or 3 seconds and then make a movement, it's game on as far as I'm concerned.
Which side did you have a ticket on in that game by any chance?
Mate, I was on the plus. It didn't really matter. But you can't wait 3 or 4 seconds, then move sideways and then pause again. That's against the spirit of that rule. Then say, that's my normal. How do the defenders know that's your normal advancement to the ball? I think once you settle and then you make a movement, it's game on. I'm sorry.
I feel like we probably shouldn't get too into the weeds on this because it's probably not something the punters are super keen to have rehashed over and over again. But Canterbury got the win. Congratulations, Fisky, off to a winning start. You were certainly on fire in the NPC. One team that wasn't on fire, though, Paul, what happened to your Lions in Inglewood?
Well, I think they need a few positional changes. Certainly, Mr. Love back in the number 10 jersey.
Yeah. Maybe let him touch the ball for once, eh?
Yeah, he's at his best when he's got the ball in his hands, and he's going to get his hands on the ball when he's got the number 10 jersey. So I think he needs to slot straight back into the first 5'8" position where he was before he went off injured against Waikato just before the COVID break. In fact, before he went off, I think Wellington are up 20 points or so against
26.
Waikato. So I think he slots back in there. This guy, is it Umaga Jensen? Maybe he could get a start. Put him in the 13 and let him run.
Put him in the 6 or something if you need to, just to get him on. Just get him on the field. Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that they could do. But certainly I would like to see Love back in the 10 jersey.
Yeah, I think that's it. You look at the way he was threatening defenses even in Super Rugby level, and just there's so much dynamism there. If you think about the potential of Love and Umaga Jensen in that same first attacking phase, but Aidan Morgan just didn't really offer that same threat, I think. So hopefully they'll make a couple of changes, and back at Caketon this week for Hawke's Bay, we'll see how they go. But another team that didn't really fire, they did get the win. Fisky, you came very close to getting your Tasman 1-12 bet up. It was almost an inspired play there.
sitting there at $6 thinking this might be a chance here. But, yeah, that was – I think it played out like we thought. Tasman, I don't think they showed all their cards. They had their eye on tomorrow night's match against Waikato. So, yeah, I don't read too much into it. I thought Northland were brave and actually quite good to watch. It was a good looking match. Balls thrown around, some good footy played. I wouldn't read into it too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we at all concerned about Tasman? I don't think they've covered a game yet so far. Only beat Auckland by 6 at home the week before and weren't overly convincing against Bay of Plenty in week 1. But you do get the feel, right, with all those weapons they've got that wide pool that they can probably kick into gear when they need to.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, they're just chugging along nicely at the moment, picking up points when they need to. And they'll be right at the top of their game when we get to the business end of the season. Easy.
Yeah, sure. And I'll let you have first right of reply on Sunday afternoon's action. We've already given the Shield Challenge a bit of a shout out, but I'm sure you've got a few more soliloquies to give Ash Dixon and the boys.
It was a little bit tighter than maybe I initially thought. The Bay of Plenty probably should have won that after they scored that final try with about 2 minutes left on the clock.
Probably stay on side, right, when you're defending a 3-point lead in the dying seconds of a Shield Challenge.
Always a good idea. Yeah. Always a good idea, yeah. But at the Bay at home, they're very, very tough to knock over. And they still held belief in themselves as they took that kickoff, being 3 points down with only a couple of minutes left on the clock. They had their reserve first 5'8" on, who kicked the goal, a penalty goal to take them into extra time, and then they once again the team did enough to create pressure down inside the Bay of Plenty 22, and then converted that into points. It was pretty simple in the end. They would have got a wee bit of a wake up sort of call, but in the end, I just think Hawke's Bay, they will always be very, very tough at home. And when you think you've got the game in the bag at McLean Park, better think again. The boys don't give up there.
How far away are we, Paul and Pat, from seeing, and it might be this weekend, how far are we seeing the Bay from looking at away games as a chance to rest players for the next home game?
I think, it's about 72 hours, I imagine.
Yeah. With Tasman next cab off the rank in a fortnight, something tells me that this week they might not be as committed to winning in Wellington as maybe they should.
Although it's not straight back up. I think they've got 2 away games in a row before they take on the Mako. So if not this week, certainly I'd maybe look at the early line. I'll just pull up the schedule here for their game the week after, because I know Paul's confident that they've got what it takes to beat the Mako, but they've actually got a bye next week. So
okay, that might work. Yeah,
but I still think there's going to be. We touched on it earlier with a couple of games that there is going to be that natural letdown after certainly an extra time Shield Challenge, an emotional win like that, and reclaiming the title of the Bay. Lest we forget that you're going to head down to the Cape Tin. Also, I think little factor taken here, the Wellington to Napier trip still falls within the drivable distance as far as the NZR is concerned. So all the boys are chucked onto the bus for the 4-hour trip over the Rumatakas for that one, I believe. So probably not the best conditions to be lining
in the
up.
old days, you'd be able to get through at least half a case of beer. That's true.
Yeah. There'll be a few. I don't know what the local drop up that way is. It's probably export gold country, but maybe if they do get the win, there'll be plenty of those consumed on the way back. Not that I can comment
they're
on.
in Wellington, they can pick up some panheads on the way through.
Sounds dangerous. We're probably checking. Paul's up handhead expert on this panel, I believe.
No, I'm not actually.
Okay, right.
No, I'm going espresso martinis at the moment. Thank you.
Anyway, moving along. Round 4. That's covers off the 4 games there. It was pretty, as we expect from the NPC, action-packed weekend, and we've mentioned it's a top of the table clash still, even despite Waikato not getting the win on Friday night. They're still second on the ladder behind Tasman as they head down to the Nelson region to take on the Mako. It's Trafalgar Park and Nelson, 7:05 Friday evening, kicks off round 4. Tasman, unsurprisingly, pretty heavy favourites for this one. We've sort of said we think they can kick into gear when they need to. Fisky, you've been seeing an NPC like a beach ball last week. Are you expecting a Tasman win here?
I am. Geez, the lines this week are really tough. The bookies have done a good job. 10's creeping up to potentially being too big. I've been pretty impressed with Waikato this year. But Tasman home and everything in their favour. Yeah, I will be on the plus. I'm going to back Waikato. I think Tasman still win, but I'm not doing it with a lot of confidence. The game I'm interested in, actually, I'm surprised you haven't brought it up, Pat, because it is the best of times and it's the worst of times for Manawatu fans. Aaron Smith should be suiting up, but no crowds are allowed, Pat.
Yeah, it's a real shame for the Union. I think the first 2 games of his return against Northland this week and Otago next week, both Saturday afternoon kickoffs, would have been perfect to get a few fans in the gate if the team's going well and you got Aaron on the field. But yeah, no public ticket sales allowed. But I'm sure there won't be many TV sets in the Palms North region that aren't on Sky Sport 1 at 2 o'clock on Saturday either, because I'm just south of the Manawatu Horowhenua border at the moment, but everyone's pretty fired up to see him back in action in green and white, that's for sure.
Surely if you put a bucket on your head, that'll get you in the ground. It's better than a mask. Just don't cut the whole front out. Just cut some eyes out. And there you go. Surely
COVID's safe and sending a message.
There we go.
I found out having my bucket head on usually gets me kicked out of places rather than let into them, but maybe that's just me.
You have been wearing them into banks lately, mate. We've warned you about walking into banks with that on, mate.
Yeah, no. Need to start taking your advice on board punting and bucket head-wise, Fisky. But I don't know about you boys, but seeing Manawatu as $1.34 favourites, even with the great man in the 9 jersey, that face you just made pretty much sums it up for me, Fisky, right?
Yeah, it's fraught with danger. I think it'd be fair enough, that line of 8.5 or the $1.30 odds head-to-head, if they had the crowd there, given it's going to be a pretty sterile atmosphere. They've been playing well, Manawatu. Unlucky down at Canterbury about a month ago. I think it's getting to the too short side to back the minus. I'd be once again leaning to the plus with no confidence.
For sure. How about you, Paul? Are you donning your tunny fast suit?
No, well, not head-to-head wise. I think Manawatu just have too much gas for this Northland team. So the $1.34 is certainly going to feature in a number of my multis over the weekend. But yeah, pretty much all of the point starts are really pretty much where they should be. It's very, very hard to say, I definitely want to take this team plus, or I definitely want to take this team minus. I'll probably will take Waikato plus the points on Friday night, just because Tasman have struggled to cover games this season, and they're still slowly building up. And we saw enough from Waikato last weekend against Canterbury to suggest they play some very, very good rugby. And I'm sure that the goal kicker won't take too long to do a sideways step when he's taking a shot at goal this weekend.
Or maybe the referee will just know that it's part of his kick-up motion this week.
Here we go.
Probably a good chance to mention NPC bonus back at this stage, because we've got the promo running on all 5 games this weekend, and that's where if you place a pre-match winning team margin bet and your team wins, but you've got the incorrect margin, you get a refund as a bonus bet up to $30.
50.
Is it 50? Oh, I'll have to tell who's ever in charge of the article here. So it's $50, not 30.
It's 50.
It's 50. It's 50.
Yeah.
I think I'm really glad you brought that up, because there's a couple of games here where we're saying that Tasman should win, Manawatu should win, Canterbury should win, but all of them could be pretty tight. So it could be a nice little play the 1 to 12, and if they do kick away, you get your money back. I'll be doing that. I think there's actually a lot of opportunities. Wellington's another one. Bay Plenty's another one. I think it's kind of a week of margins for me.
It's a full house of bonus backs for Fisky by the sounds of things.
I think it's a brilliant promo, and it just aligns nicely with the lines. When you got those lines of 8 or 10, it should win. Whether it's 1 to 12 or 13 plus, who knows? So I'm gonna play it off against itself.
And even circling back, the All Blacks probably another one in that category, right? Where I know you guys are both probably keen on the 13 plus, but
No, I like the 1 to 12
yeah,
at $3.10.
Yeah, we'll get back to that shortly. But yeah, you did. You also mentioned Canterbury there, Fisky. They're heading down to the deep south for late Sunday Arvo kickoff, and it's going to be classic Invercargill weather by the looks of things. A bit of drizzle.
It's going to be wet. It's going to be wet.
Can I interest you on Canterbury 1 to 12?
Sold. I love that bet.
I'll have it.
Yeah, I think we've seen Southland the last year and a half. They've been a much tougher proposition at home, making teams really work to walk away from Rugby Park with the 4 points. Canterbury, they look good. Obviously, there are a few standouts there, both wingers, Cam Bailey and Waisaki Naholo, capable of doing good things with ball in hand. But as a whole, I don't think it wasn't really a well-oiled machine. So Southland can drag them down into the mud and make it an arm wrestle for 80 minutes, which I'm pretty sure those Stags will be keen to do. Yeah, I think you're expecting a pretty tight one there as well, Paul?
Yep, 100%. As you said, 80% chance of rain, a cold sort of Southland, was it September day? I love the Canterbury 1 to 12 at $3 and was it 60 cents?
Yeah,
it's a ripper, isn't it? That is a ripper.
Yeah, especially with the promotion where you've got a wee bit of a sort of a cushion there. If Canterbury do kick away, you can get your stake back as a bonus bet. So yeah, I thought the best winning team and margin bet for mine was Canterbury 1 to 12 at 360.
It's like you're keen to get out of here or something. Keep jumping ahead in the run sheet.
It's like my day. I've been all over the place today. There is plenty going on.
Yeah, no,
it's nearly 1:30. He's got to head home. That's a long day in the office for Paul.
Yeah. He's parked in the wrong spot. Someone's been calling his phone telling him he has to move the car, I think.
Someone has been actually.
But first of all, I just want to touch on, we've got two pretty interesting games Sunday Arvo. Wellington, Hawke's Bay at the Caketon, we've already mentioned, and then Bay of Plenty, back to being Bay of Plenty, have to head back to the Bay and, head back to Bay of Plenty and take on Taranaki, who were very impressive last weekend. Both away teams, Hawke's Bay and Taranaki, in that sort of mid to high $2 range, $2.55 for the Bay, $2.85 Taranaki. If you had to pick one of those to cause an upset, Paul, who would it be?
Taranaki. I just think Bay of Plenty, after that heartbreaking loss, not just NPC points, but the Ramfilly Shield. And can I just say, I totally disagree with the ruling that the Ramfilly Shield is still on the line if you go to extra time. Historically, it has always been, and I know we haven't had extra time always, but historically it's always been, if you can't beat the holders, then you don't deserve to take it. And so I think if you can't beat the holders in regulation in the 80 minutes, it shouldn't be on the line when a game goes to extra time. So getting back to your question, Taranaki, I think, represent the best value for an upset this weekend, even though Wellington could be all over the place against Hawke's Bay earlier on that day. I like Taranaki because I think Bay of Plenty will be emotionally drained after they get in front with 2 minutes to go and then lose an extra time. And also, Taranaki have got a very, very good team. They can actually play some really, really good footy. So Taranaki at 285 head-to-head, I think, represents the best upset value of the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I think there was also a bit of chatter in the higher up circles about whether the title of the Bay should be on the line in extra time as well, whether that was another thing that should stick with had to win it in the 80 minutes, but not for me to decide. So congratulations to Hawke's Bay for reclaiming that title. But can I interest you in either of those Sunday underdogs, Fisky?
No, I'm actually I'm an underdog man generally. I'm going to be going with both home sides. Not smashing the minus, but I think I'll be playing them 1 to 12 and expecting them to win. And wouldn't be surprised if one actually win 13 plus. I'm actually a little bit different to Paul on this one. I think Taranaki, good at home, dominant against the weaker sides, but I think on the road to Bay Plenty might be a bit much for them, personally.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, better get to best bets because I think I can see someone checking Paul's car on a tow truck out on the security camera. So time to make a few decisions. Paul, what's your best bet in the NPC this week?
Wellington
At the line or just head to head?
at the line. Just no, Wellington $1.04. What are they? $1.46.
I don't know because I've got the
Yes, $1.46. Yeah.
Wellington head to head.
How about you, Fisky? Best bet NPC?
Look, I'm going to go margin, and not just because of I do like that Canterbury 1-12 as my best bet of the weekend. They'll struggle to lose the game, but I won't take the +17. I'll take the 1-12, and so Canterbury 1-12 at 360 is my best bet of the week. NPC.
Lovely value. I'm going back to the cake tin. I'm just taking Wellington at the line -6.5. I think that line is, it's hedging a bit depending on team news, and hopefully get the news we want to see. That could be a lot bigger come kickoff. So, yeah, I think Hawke's Bay a classic letdown performance, and they'll be back up again for Tasman in a couple of weeks. Got a bit of value for the punters, Paul?
Yep, Southland +17.5. I think with the expected weather conditions and the fact that they grow another leg when they play down south. And they'll just be grinding out and tackling all day. I don't see Canterbury getting away from them. So Southland +17.5.
Nice one. How about you, Fisky? What was your value?
Might have another margin. I'm going to stick solid. I'm going to go Bay of Plenty 1-12 at 280. I think they'll win. And I think the only thing you could lose here is them winning by too much, but you'll get your money back. So Bay of Plenty 1-12 at 280.
One. I've gone for another favourite of mine, not the promo winning team in margin, but in the winning team in margin 10-point market. We all know my love affair with Crusaders 11-20, so just switching it up slightly and taking Canterbury 11-20 at $4. I think, like we said, it could be.
You're going to regret this.
Doesn't sound like me. I think Paul, you said if you had to pick an upset, Taranaki. Best trophy. Yeah.
Yep.
I know you're pretty keen on all the favourites, so Fisky, if there was one underdog, anyone jumping out to you?
If there was one, it'd be the first game of the week, Waikato at 355. Like I say, I'm not declaring it, and it's not an official play, but that's the one I'd lean to as a genuine chance of an upset.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going with Taranaki as well there. I think it's the best chance. So I don't mind Bay of Plenty at home, but all the other 4 home teams I really like. So we're taking Taranaki. I think you've tipped out every bonus bet game in one way or another already, Fisky, but if you just had to pick one, who are you going with? Your favourite bonus bet for the week?
We've probably talked about Canterbury, but no, I'll go with another one. Throw it on the mix. Wellington as well, 1-12. I think they'll win. Once again, money back if they win by too much. But there's enough about Wellington to suggest they're never good things 13+. So I'm happy to be 1-12 there as well.
Yes, that is a very fair statement about Wellington never being good things like that. Paul, your best bonus back bet for the round?
Canterbury 1-12, 360.
Yeah, that is a dead set ripper. That is just. I'm getting on now.
I'm going the Mako 1-12 at 310. I think they win that game. I'd be pretty shocked to see Waikato win down there, but I certainly think they can keep it close. So not getting much less value at the $3.10 mark for Tasman 1-12. Last one, just no teams yet. Unfortunately, I was hoping we might at least have teams for the Friday night game, but not to be. But Paul, who do you think you might see dotting down over the weekend? One try score a bet for the punters.
Back a hooker.
All right, thank you. All 10?
I think you'll come out on top.
All right. Well, I'll track that one. Actually, we'll have to see how the strike rate goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if you do. How about you, Fisky? Do you any try scorers you like, or just thrown out a position group?
Paul always comes out on top against hookers. We've known that for many a year. I'm going to stick with my man Cam Bailey down at Southland. I'm sure he'll get selected again. I hope he touches down in Invercargill, so I'll be on Cam Bailey.
Yeah, nice one. I'm going with the man who got the job done for me last week, Lester Ganuku. He created one try to nothing and looking very impressive. So I'm sure he'll be starting at centre again for Tasman and probably dotting down. All right, let's do the Rugby Championship quickly. Best bet in the Rugby Championship. I'll start with you, Paul.
Australia head-to-head, 136.
just crazy value for the punters there. And you,
My
Fisky?
best one.
Yeah, the same game, and I'll go margin, and I'll go the 13 and over, 13 plus. You've got the money back promo. I don't think you'll need it, and it's paying $2.30. I think it's a pretty decent price. So that's my best bet of the weekend for Rugby Championship.
That's Australia 13 plus.
Yes, $2.30.
I'm going to the other game. You guys aren't going to like this, but I'm taking South Africa 1-12, plus 12.5. I just think that line's way too big for this game with the history and you look at the recent head-to-head record, it's been 10 points or less each of the last 5 tests. I think the Springboks have put up a fight. So, yeah, I'm taking it's too big. How about a bit of value, Fisky? I'll let you go first.
Oh, well, it's a slight take on that. You could back All Blacks 1-12, thinking they'll probably win, and you got your money back going for you. So I hear what you're saying, Pat. Don't necessarily agree, but I'd be going that margin option. For my margin bet, for my value bet, I'm going to take a alternate line on the Wallabies. I'm all in on this one. So they're at minus 19.5 at 345. So that's my value play for the weekend.
Like that a lot. Paul, you got something in that probably $1.60, $1.70 range for a bit of value?
South Africa plus 12.5.
Wow, almost $2. Crazy. I'm the same as Fisky. I was looking at alternate point start market, and you've got 19.5, so I'll just nudge out a little bit further, go 22.5 at 4.15, get over the $4 mark. So now done your favour there, punters, because they definitely win by 20 or 21. So get on but yeah. For my bonus bet, though, I am going All Blacks 1-12. That's, like we've said before, a game where I'd be pretty shocked to see the underdog get up and getting that extra insurance if the All Blacks do run away with it. You're getting more than 3-1 for New Zealand 1-12. Great with the promo in play. It seems like a great bet. So I'll be taking New Zealand 1-12 at 3.10. How about you, Fisky? Is that
I'll go there. I'll be on the 13 plus at 183. I'm chips in All Blacks as well.
Nice one. And you, Paul?
All Blacks 1-12.
Cool. And that's but get a try score off each year. Who's done down in Townsville, Fisky?
Yeah, I think. Look, I know that Hooker's a great option, and definitely wouldn't talk anyone out of it. I'm going to go with Korobiti. He's just been playing great rugby, and I think the Pumas wingers will have trouble with him. So, and they love to get him involved as much as they can. So, yeah, Korobiti for me to score a try at any time. Prices will be up in about a couple of hours.
Very hard to argue with in his current form. Your favourite pick to score a try, Paul?
Yep, Korobiti. The ball along the Australian back line. Hodges slots in there as well, makes the extra man. Out to Korobiti, who strolls over in the corner untouched.
I think that's the biggest shock of the week. Paul not tipping a hooker for his try scorer bet, but no,
I just tipped out 10 in the NPC.
I'm going with a man who's hopefully on the left wing in the other game, Rieko Ioane, in his form. I think if the All Blacks are going to score tries against South Africa, it'll be out wide, like we saw Korobiti do on the weekends. And Rico's been in great form with ball in hand, so he'll be my try scorer pick.
Did we get Chris Handy commentate over in New Zealand back in the day? He was.
Yes, we.
You did?
Well,
Chris
I've
Handy?
heard him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big
Buddha?
Yeah, Buddha. Yeah. So there'd be him and Gordy Bray, and every time a tribe scored, Chris Handy would be over.
Might have to get him back for the Wallabies game on Saturday night. Probably get a few of those. I think that pretty much does us for this round. It's been great chatting with both of you, previewing all the action from the NPC and Rugby Championship. Very excited for all of it. Hopefully, back again next. Well, we will be back again next week to do it all again. Got another big week of action coming up. So talk to you all again.
Shout out to Rissy.
Oh yeah, congrats. For those who wondering why Rissy's not here, he's became a father for the second time on Wednesday morning. So he's no doubt dealing with a bit of sleep deprivation right now. But I
thought he'd gone to get the kebabioed Paul for the bet they had last week. Oh, the baby. That's what it was.
Well, that was another one. Did the kebab bet, was that decided at 80 minutes? So many permutations.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It's because I did text him at the 80-minute mark, and I said, "Oh, so is that it? The bet's off now?" No, extra time included. I said, "Oh, okay."
Should have taken the line. No, but yeah, well, hopefully Rissy will be back in a couple of weeks. I don't think he'll be quite back on the quick turn up next week. So
he's got Ryder Cup to watch this weekend, so it's a great time to be up in the middle of the night.
Oh, it is. The 48 hours from about 10 o'clock, or even 7 o'clock Friday evening when the NPC kicks off. NRL prelims, Ryder Cup. There's just absolutely all sorts on. The NRL stuffed up by moving that Panthers game early to coincide with the All Blacks, but other than that, it's pretty much perfectly lined up. So, great weekend to be a punter, and we'll be back to break it all down again this time next week. Cheers for joining us, boys. Hope you go well on the punt this week, and the bonus backs treat you well.
It's over.
Over.
All right, I'll leave it on that. What a way to sign out. Have a good one, punters.